After a record-shattering 2023 season, where Max Verstappen and Red Bull won all but one race, their dominance initially seemed set to continue in 2024, with Verstappen securing victory in 7 of the first 10 Grands Prix. However, as the season unfolded, the landscape shifted dramatically. McLaren and Ferrari surged forward, closing the gap to the reigning champions. While Verstappen managed to fend off Lando Norris to clinch the Drivers' Championship, McLaren seized the Constructors' title, with Ferrari also surpassing Red Bull to claim second place. Amid this changing tide, Adrian Newey, whose departure from Red Bull was confirmed in May, gradually stepped away from F1 projects, shifting his focus to the RB17 hypercar ahead of his official exit in early 2025. Now preparing for his next chapter as Aston Martin's managing technical partner from March 1st, Newey spoke to Automotor and Sport about what may have caused Red Bull's early season dominance to slip, allowing their rivals to catch up. Obviously, part of that was McLaren in particular, and Ferrari as well, developing their cars and doing a very good job of developing their cars, the Briton explained. I think Red Bull, from what I could see, the car was already the 24 car, and through the very last stages of 23 as well, I would say, starting to become more difficult to drive. And of course, Max could handle that if you like. It didn't suit him, but he could handle it. Sergio Perez couldn't. So you also started through the 23 season to see more of a difference in performance between the teammates, Max and Checo. That carried into the first part of 2024, but the car was still quick enough to be able to cope with it. It's something I was starting to become concerned about, but not many of the people in the organisation seemed to be very concerned about. From what I can see from the outside, but I don't know, the guys at Red Bull, this is no criticism, but I think they just perhaps, through lack of experience, kept going in that same direction. And the problem became more and more acute to the point that even Max found it difficult to drive. When asked whether Red Bull attempted to address the issue through car setup, the 66-year-old was pressed on just how much setup adjustments can mask underlying design flaws. Setup can mask problems to an extent, but the problem is still there, said Newey. To me, setup is more simply optimizing the characteristics of the car, and of course then, to an extent, driver, but I think that's over-egged. I think it's mainly to complement the characteristics of the car, and then, of course, some circuit-to-circuit variation depending on the nature of the circuit. With the great Adrian Newey giving his analysis on Red Bull's downfall, where does Aston Martin come into play into this whole thing, you may ask? Well, last month, Daily Mail reported that Aston Martin was preparing a staggering £1 billion investment plan to secure four-time world champion Max Verstappen, a claim the team swiftly and categorically denied. If true, however, it would mark the most expensive move in Formula One history and rank among the biggest transfers in all of sports. Beyond the price tag, a switch to Aston Martin would reunite Verstappen with both Honda and Adrian Newey in 2026. However, such a move could come at the cost of immediate title contention, at least until Newey has fully integrated into the team after joining on March 3rd. The reported figure has sparked debate, with former Haas team principal Gunther Steiner insisting that a deal of that magnitude is too good to turn down, even if it meant Verstappen temporarily racing at the back of the grid. $1 billion is a big number, Steiner told GP Blog. Even if Max finishes last, he should go for $1 billion. Some of them teams cannot afford him. Obviously, Aston Martin can afford him. The $1 billion. It's a little bit putting it high because that would set the record, which will never be broken again. That's a bit fictional, but I'm sure Aston Martin will pay a good amount of money for it. So what does Max have to say about all of this? Max Verstappen remained tight-lipped when asked about the possibility of teaming up with Fernando Alonso at Aston Martin, stating that it's very difficult to say what will happen in the future. His comments follow claims from a respected F1 reporter that negotiations to bring Verstappen to the Silverstone-based squad are ongoing. Being under contract with Red Bull until the end of 2028, Verstappen has been at the centre of transfer speculation for the past year. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff has been vocal about his interest in signing the Dutchman, but Aston Martin has now emerged as a serious contender, especially following their high-profile signing of Adrian Newey. Adding to the intrigue, Aston Martin will enter a technical partnership with Honda next season, the very engine supplier that has powered Verstappen to all 4 of his World Championship titles. When asked about the ongoing rumours about Aston Martin knocking on his door in the near future, Verstappen's camp responded saying, "That's nice." Earlier this week, renowned F1 journalist Mark Hughes reported that negotiations to bring Max Verstappen to Aston Martin are already in motion, calling the move a very real possibility and the obvious next step for both parties. Verstappen shares a strong rapport with 2-time world champion Fernando Alonso, even revealing last year that they had discussed the idea of teaming up for the legendary Le Mans 24 Hours race. In a recent interview with Spanish publication Marca, Verstappen was asked whether he could see himself as a future teammate to Alonso or fellow Spaniard Carlos Sainz. He responded, "In the future, it's very difficult to say what will happen. I'm very happy to have been able to race with Fernando and Carlos." Verstappen, who secured his first ever F1 victory at the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona, took the opportunity to commend both Alonso and Sainz for their impact on the sport. He acknowledged their contributions to Formula One, particularly as the 2025 season will mark the 20th anniversary of Alonso's first of back-to-back World Championship triumphs with Renault, now Alpine. He added, "It's great. Of course, with Fernando winning the championships, I think he's already made a big push, and then of course it continues with Carlos as well. It's fantastic. Of course, in Spain, motorsport and racing in general is very important. They are very passionate. I always love coming to Spain. For me, it's a country with a lot of memories. I enjoy it very much. Seeing Fernando and Carlos do well is fantastic. I think it also motivates a lot of young people who want to do the same." At last year's Dutch Grand Prix, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner confirmed that Max Verstappen's contract includes a performance element, potentially allowing the reigning world champion to leave before 2028 if the team fails to deliver a competitive car. Speculation suggests that Verstappen could activate an exit clause if he sits lower than 3rd in the Drivers' Championship, after a significant portion of the 2025 season, echoing a similar clause reportedly included in at least one of his previous Red Bull contracts. Following Aston Martin's high-profile signing of Adrian Newey last September, then team principal Mike Crack made it clear that the door is always open for Verstappen to join. When asked about the possibility at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, Verstappen remained non-committal, stating that a move to Aston Martin is something maybe for the future that I think about, but not now. And he hinted that Adrian Newey's arrival had made Aston Martin a more enticing prospect for his own F1 future, adding, "I've worked with him, so I know how he is as a person and also what he can do. I think everyone would like to work with Adrian in their career, so potentially." So do you think this move makes sense for both of them when the time comes? Let's agree or disagree in the comments section below. Thanks for watching and consider subscribing if you haven't.